I'm Daymond John, and we are here in my home for the September and October issue of Success Magazine.
Hi, my name is Carrie Lee Brown, and I'm the VP Media and Editor-in-Chief of Success Magazine at Success Enterprises. And I am thrilled to be here today with the one and only Daymond John in his beautiful home here in Miami. Thank you so much for welcoming our crew.
Oh, absolutely. You know, this is honestly the first time that a crew has ever been in my house. Yeah.
We are very, very honored. So thank
that's
you
an
so
honor.
much. We're here behind the scenes. We're going to be talking to Daymond here today about entrepreneurship, about brand identity, about what success means to you,
Yeah.
and also your health, because I know that's really important right now as well in your world. So
Absolutely.
we have you slated for the cover of our entrepreneur-themed issue of Success Magazine. So thank you so much for doing
That
this.
is an alum to be part of. It is an honor. Thank you.
It is the first time we've actually done this theme for our magazine, so we're really thrilled. And let's start some questions.
Yeah.
So you're known to work with obviously entrepreneurs
Yep.
and solopreneurs, and you work with them who are emerging, you work with CEOs, you work with all types and all levels, from startups to the C-suite.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that journey and how you're working with all these different levels right now.
Well, I think the journey came out of curiosity. When I was growing up, you didn't really, those people were so unattainable to talk to. I mean, you heard of the Henry Fords, you heard of whoever it may be, and you just didn't get to meet them. You didn't, you didn't even know who they were. But then,
Right.
and I was fascinated by this world of people. And I think that as I started to really grow as an entrepreneur, I was starting to be in those rooms with people. And I realized that my idea of entrepreneurship was absolutely wrong. My idea of an entrepreneur's ability to communicate was that I was the guy to hire and fire people. I was a tough person. You couldn't find any weakness in me. And a large amount of my career probably was wasted when I was in the room with massively successful people and I wasn't vulnerable enough to say, hey, I know this, but can you teach me this?
Right.
I mean, imagine if I would have started doing that when I was 30, when about 25 years old. I remember I was actually in the room one time, and I told the story in Colorado, and I think it was Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, and various other people in the room. I'm in the corner. At that time, I was in the middle of hip hop. I had a bodyguard with me because the East Coast, West Coast battle was going on. I'm just trying to address everybody. I don't care about all that other stuff. And I never spoke to them. Imagine if I would have spoken to them at that time, Mark Cuban would be scraping the gum off of my shoes, washing my drawers. I missed that opportunity. Then I started to understand that a true entrepreneur is vulnerable, and I will be vulnerable to my staff. I will tell them where I'm weak. So I will be vulnerable to other people. And then once I started doing that, people started to just really, really communicate with me. And I found way more knowledge in speaking to entrepreneurs and founders then. And I got smarter. And that's how I started getting into more businesses. And
Right.
boom, I'm on Shark Tank wanting to know more stories.
And it is about storytelling, right?
It is.
Because it's everybody's journey is completely different, obviously,
Yeah.
and yours lends to what you're now doing. And what are some of the misconceptions of entrepreneurship that you've kind of heard from people who have gone on to be successful like yourself? Like, what are some of the things that maybe people watching this interview or seeing you in the magazine now will read your article will be like, wow, I want to do it, but is it really the place that I want to be?
Yeah, well, I mean, some of the misconceptions is that the money solves the problem. Yes, absolutely, money brings you great things such as ways to cover medical and various other things you need to survive, 120%. But there is no real difference of success when you make $1 million to $1 billion. And actually, a lot of people think that it buys you more time. It doesn't. You have to get up before everybody and go to sleep after everybody. Nobody wants to hear your problems because you're supposed to walk on water. But if you tell them your problems, and you got to listen to all theirs, all right? So, but on the flip side, it is about a personal challenge to know that even if you failed at it, you tried as hard as you could. And usually an entrepreneur who was successful, it's not their first business. It's their fourth or fifth. They started this one, they didn't have enough funding. Then they had enough funding, they didn't have enough legal paperwork in this one. They had funding and legal paperwork. They had a sucky partner in this one. By the time you get, it's like kissing a whole bunch of frogs.
Yeah.
So there's a lot, there's a massive misunderstanding about entrepreneurs. They also, people think that money is evil. It's people are evil or people good. Really great entrepreneurs, they want to, you have a staff that's working for you for years. You often won't pay yourself because you want to pay those good people. You know that you got there because you were mentored, so you better mentor somebody else. It's just a lot of different misconceptions about entrepreneurship.
And mentorship, that's another thing too. You brought it up, and you're working now with C-suites and CEOs. Tell us a little bit about why networking is really important in the entrepreneurial world as well.
Well, networking is key. Well, that's why we see social network. It's a network, right? But network is key because that's how you get innovation. And I find that today, networking in person is more powerful than ever before because, everybody that's hiding behind a screen and waiting for the Zoom to cut off in 1 hour, not saying how they really feel or don't want to interrupt, but getting the point that irritated them or brought them joy because they walked their dog, they totally forgot about it until next week. Those people, I got to tell you, I'm out more now than ever before because pressing somebody's hand and palm and looking at them and saying, I'm going to call you later, or saying, hey, what have you been up to? How are you doing? You can't do that on a Zoom. No. But I'm going to tell you the most fulfilling conversation you can ever have with somebody you never met. Just ask them, how did you get here? I've had conversations like that with people. I've never said anything to them. After that conversation, they talk for an hour. You know what they leave me saying? Man, you're brilliant.
Yeah.
People want to talk and talk about themselves, what they're doing, but nobody's asking.
And you're right. I mean, the technology and now and entrepreneurship and our whole world has either, it's either brought us together or it's kind of taken us apart, right? And so, there's obviously good things about technology and innovation with, that we have access to different things worldwide, but you're right. It's about that like the relationship and those interpersonal
It is the same thing as now. Technology and being home and not out in the public.
Right.
It's like being very book smart in college, but never working a real job. You get it all here.
Yes.
You are spot on. You went to Yale and Harvard. Now you're scooping ice cream at Baskin Robbins because you didn't know how to put and apply those things. Because when you have human reaction and people really working with you, you also have people telling you why you're not worth shit.
Right.
And
to your face.
To your face.
Yeah.
Or they're like, yeah, okay, see you later. And you have to adapt to it.
Yeah.
It's like, we're at a day and age that over the last 4 years, so many people have not been involved physically with other people in interaction. Well, it's like our children, when we first let them out the house and they realize, wait a minute, everybody here doesn't love me, mommy. Yeah, and you're going to have to deal with that.
Yeah, and it's also being able to, in that moment, when you're having that constructive criticism or those no's, it's being able to literally maintain your posture, your composure. It's being able to deal with those stressful situations, right?
And it's also, remember, if 65% of communication is body language, how are you going to get that on the screen?
That's right.
Right? So if I say something to you in person, I see you go, I'm not going to say anything on a screen.
Right.
Because I may not even see that gist, but I go, hey, what's up? Everything okay? So that is the difference. I know we're getting into more about communication now, but these are the tiny nuances, right, of saying things and seeing people in interaction. To see another person that you haven't seen in a long time and say, hey man, I really missed you, with a nice smile because you really missed them. So that's why I am having a ball right now.
That's great.
It is the best time ever for me, really, because everybody else is, taking it slow, dialing it in, and I'm out there meeting and talking to people and reviving relationships, and I'm going so much further than I ever even expected. Every time I think I've hit here, I start going here, whether on emotional intelligence, whether in business, whether just getting to know myself. I can't wait to see who myself is up here.
And I was going to ask you about that. Like, how do you stay motivated? What do you get up in the morning to? What do you look forward to in a day?
Well, I do my goals, and it's widely out there, right? That I wake up in the morning and I thank it for everything I have and everything that I will be able to do because I have my health. I know that the gifts and the things that I may have today that God has granted me, God may give me another challenge, and I better be very, very excited. Not excited, but I better be ready to take on that challenge, even if it's I lose my legs. right? I can't look at the things that have happened in my life and say that there's nothing that you have to give for it. You have to give for it. And I think that when I wake up with that attitude, it just makes the world so much better to me. So many people wake up and say to themselves, why are they not where they want to be? If you're alive, you're where you want to be. If you're alive, you're not enslaved and things of that nature. You're not, and I have a lot of people around me. I have a guy named Eric Patrick Thomas. He said he had a bad day 22 years ago by a stray bullet. He's been a paraplegic. It takes him 4 hours to get ready to go to wake up in the day and 3 hours to go to bed at night. The times that I'm having a bad time, I think about him, and all that shit changes.
Wow. So how have you overcome maybe some setbacks in your own life, in your entrepreneurial journey and in your career in general?
I hack myself. I say, what did I do wrong? Did I really love what I was doing, or was I doing it for the wrong reason? Could have been that I thought that that's what society thought I should have done, or my ego got in the way. Did I do enough homework? Because, at the end of the day, if you don't know yourself, you don't ask yourself the real question of why you're doing it, well, then how are you going to ever set the proper goals to achieve it? How are you going to do the right homework to reinforce those goals, right? So almost everything that I do, I fail at. It goes off what I didn't love it. I didn't want to do it. So either I didn't find a good partner in it because I wasn't hungry enough, or I didn't do enough homework because I read it for 2 hours, 5 hours. I wasn't obsessed with it. And it always will go back to the why. Yeah. It'll always go back to that. And it happens. I'm human. I get comfortable with certain things, and I turn around and go, what the hell happened? When did this change? Right. I got to reset.
And reset, that's really important, right?
Yeah.
In any business, really, in anything you do.
Anything you do, yeah. but constantly resetting is, I've been, I just went and got a lot of stem cell done because I'm on this longevity path, right? And, but I've also been, as I just said, right? Running around really excited, right? I gained like 7 pounds. Wait a minute, I can't do this for the rest of the year.
Right.
What changed? This changed. I got to dial it again. So I'll reset every month or every quarter or every year, but it's just going to go away. And every person, there's so many different elements. I mean, don't you do that in a business? Wait a minute, we don't have enough of this inventory, or we need more people to work here, or we're paying too much rent, or we didn't do marketing. You're resetting all day in business, but we don't reset ourselves. And we'll stay in a toxic relationship, or not cut somebody off and not realize that they're draining so much. Even if you talk to them once a week, they're always draining something in you because you go, wait a minute, what this person, just cut, reset.
Yeah, cut the cord, right? And you had said it before when we spoke earlier, is that, they can drain your energy, right? And when it comes to business and obviously your personal life, you've got to be able to balance that in some way, or at least have some kind of harmony. And if you cut the toxic people out of your life, in no matter what aspect, you're able to kind of fulfill, your next goal. So back to that on your health, because I know you are on a longevity path.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about exactly what you're doing there and how that kind of intermingles with your whole life in business as well.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it started with I've done this all my life. I have fancy doctors, machines, and this and that, and I was looking at myself and I was saying, I had faced cancer and I wasn't losing the kind of weight that I wanted to, and I had a chef and I had this and that, and I said, you know what? You know what you need to do. Just stop drinking. Immediately I dropped 15 pounds, and then after that I went on. It changed my life to do some things. So let's think about the time. We all have 24 hours in a day. Yeah. You'll talk to people who like to intermittent fast, so you'll talk to people who fast. You know what they'll say? They said, I didn't realize I was spending so much time thinking about food. Wow, let's 1 hour before, what am I going to eat? Then after you eat, right? Then you finish that, and then you think about, where are we going tonight? What are we going to do today, right? So now all of a sudden you have that time. Yeah. Same thing with, look at that with drinking, right? You're drinking your calories, your body is slowing down. So let's say you have 3 doubles a night or 2 doubles a night, whatever the case is. You're not sleeping as well, and in the morning you don't have the energy to work out. It is taking literally about 20% of your life. right?
Yeah,
We're not even
it's
talking about if you have bad
difficult.
habits on other stuff. I want to be very intentional about the time I waste. And it's not a waste if I'm fishing and I'm enjoying myself. Or, I was in 10 cities in the last couple of days, and I came home. I was in Atlanta. I came home for literally. I slept 2 hours and took my little girl to school. But my little conversation I had with my little girl that day about how she was like, "Daddy, you know Kim Kardashian?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, I know Kim Kardashian." She said, "Oh, Daddy." I was like, what happened? She did wrong things to Taylor Swift, Daddy, and she's Kim Kardashian, no good, Daddy. Well, no, little girl. Well, Kim and Taylor have a little bit of problem, but Kim's smart. Kim's gonna play that record all the time and dance to it, and then make an episode off of it
Make a
and
TikTok.
take it out of the room. A little conversation is so timely that I wouldn't have had it with her that little hour that I took her to school and then I flew to another city.
Right.
It's about extremely, I will waste that time because that's not a waste. The way I look at it is, well, I was on a plane, I was able to catch up to some stuff. Right, I got home, see my little girl. If I did that 20 times a year, those are 20 times that nobody can ever take away from us. But if I didn't do it 20 times a year, then I'd be the dad who was never home and put everything in was more important than her.
Right. It's about those little morsels of minutes, right? That you kind of can grab with a
With
little
her,
one like
with
that.
my wife,
Yes.
with my mother, with friends. I think we get too structured thinking we're going to get to it. We're going to get. It's like somebody say we're going to get to the gym, but if we don't, you know what happens? We answer this email. On that plane, that train, that automobile. We answer everybody. We get caught up on social media, getting depressed, looking at it, and we answer everybody else. So it's all about readjusting all that. And I'm not perfect at it. I just know I'm very conscious about doing it.
Right, right. It's intentional. That's what you
Very
said.
intentional.
Being very intentional. And is that something that you've really, I mean, is that come with experience that you are now, or age, or like kind of just where you are in your life?
It's come with, I'm just a person who observes things, and I've seen a lot of people just not be intentional. And it's usually those small little things that make the big difference, It's about, you know, it's about having to let somebody go in a company and not telling them why and not saying, I wish I didn't do this. I don't want to do this. This is how the company works. Maybe we'll work again in the future but I care about you and your family. But unfortunately I had to make this decision. Why can't you have that 2-minute conversation? Now, maybe the conversation is a different one. I had high expectations for you. I think that you're better than this. I'm disappointed, but I'm not your parent. Have you seen the same actions that you've been doing throughout your career, throughout your life? That's not up to me to judge you, but I want you to consider that. These little things that people are just saying thank you or just sending a letter. I'm a public speaker. I always send letters to everybody, and I send letters to say thank you. They say I'm the only person that says thank you. Why not say thank you? You don't know when you're going to see that person down the road.
I agree. I agree with that. I love that. I love that. So back to kind of, I know we're going to wrap up, but back to the original question. What is the definition of success to you? If you had a one kind of sentence to be able to define that for yourself.
The problem is the best. It's been said a million times, right?
Yeah.
Success is doing something you love every single day.
Yes.
Never working a day. I mean, so I'm trying to find ways that people can walk away with, knowing that you left it on the field. Challenge yourself. Knowing that you're only doing it for those that deserve it, and you're the first person that deserves it. I think, that's a pretty long kind of quote, right? But it really is, the old saying, waking up and doing what you love every single day.
Self-love too, right?
Self-love is more important than anything else, of course.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your CEO Access program and what you're doing with them now.
I realize that I'm the conduit for what I hope are a lot of people. I want to be that conduit. So, whether it is my books, but whether it is trying to give our little future sharks financial intelligence and showing them that if I can make it, you can make it. Here's what you need, or the people on Shark Tank, what am I really doing on Shark Tank? I'm just taking them, I'm connecting them with funds and distribution. And I've been calling people shark for a long time, and I think I may have shared it with you in the past in an interview. I was talking to one of my CEOs who's a massively successful CEO, and he said, "Hey, why don't you? I know this tech guy, but I don't know how to market and brand and become, myself." And and publicly. And I said, "Well, why do you want to do that?" And he said, "Well, I gotta tell you something. Today's it's no longer make it and they will come. People want to know who you are. They want to know who's behind the company." And the difference with usually massively successful CEOs is the fact that their name enters the building and the room way before they do. So they may fail at this company, but they start new ones and other ones. And I always use the example that there's many people who, control the airline industry. But there's only one Richard Branson who moves from music to airline to soda to various other things, right? Many people in tech or a part of sports teams, but there's only one person that I know, and I happen to only like him half of the time, that moved from technology to owning his own television network to owning the Mavericks to being a fellow Shark, Mark Cuban. Or even somebody who sold PayPal to then now, making cars and putting people in space. Or I don't get into politics. It's not about politics. Plenty of real estate developers. Somebody started branding themselves in the 80s, then the 90s. Then they took the highest seat in this country. And so I started to help CEOs who say, "I know this, but how do you walk me in the room and help me brand myself? Because that's the difference of today." And I told this guy, "No, I don't want to help you." And he said, "Well, why don't you want to help me?" I said, "Because you're good." I said, "I'm the people shark. I help people on this level trying to get there." He said, "But if you help me, then I can help more of them." And so then I started this thing called CEO Access, where I probably can handle maybe 4 men or women a year. And it has been absolutely amazing. I've been able to walk into rooms and learn more myself. Yeah, so
And it is constantly about learning, right? And no matter what age or
it's
stage you
absolutely
are, right?
constantly. And I gotta tell you, one of my guys who we learned, he has a company called Starkey Hearing, right? And why did I do this with him? Because he said to me that it takes 10 years for you to realize whether you have a loss of hearing or not. And when you don't have this gift that God has given us, and you don't want to admit it because you are too egotistical to say, "I don't want to look old." And these devices, I can tell if my mother has them on, I can tell if she's going to fall 15 minutes before she falls, right? Or you can speak to me in any language, it'll go into my native language. But I realized that the gift of hearing is something that people, don't value. And if you don't have it as much and it's deteriorating, well, you're that person turning the TV up to 10 while everybody else in the room wants to leave. You're that person who's having a lot of conflict in your life because you have misunderstandings and you think it's everybody else. You're that person who can't speak at a restaurant to your significant other because everybody else hears you. And you're the person also that tends to shun away from communities with dementia and various other things, and your brain is not working as well because you shun away. And I decided to work with him, and I've learned so much from him. But on the flip side, he works at Apple. I introduced him to Tim Cook, right? He wants to get these devices to be more accepted. Well, why don't we do a deal with Disney and call him Jarvis? People have in iPods or whatever they have in their ear already or every day.
Right.
So these are the type of people that I like working with because it's a symbiotic relationship end of the day. And we create true change.
Yeah, and you help people, right? And that, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So thank you so much, Daymond. I really want to thank you for welcoming us into your home. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
I know
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been nice.